What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am so sorry that it's taking me so long to put out a new YouTube video. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what happened. I took a break when my sister got married in June, and now it's July, and I haven't made a YouTube video in like a month, and I don't know why. So, welcome back to the channel. I'm really happy that you guys would be willing to click on this video. I think this is one that I'm really excited about. Be sure to stick around to the end, because I kind of have an exciting announcement and something I just launched. I haven't told anyone else on Instagram that you guys will be the first to know. So if you stick around to the end of this video, there will be something cool that you guys are definitely going to want to check out. As you saw already from the title, this video is about how to be single and be successful while you're single. And I'm not talking successful in terms of like making money or your job or buying a house while you're single. I'm talking about emotional, physical, spiritual success while you're single, because I feel like the problem is for a lot of us, especially as Christians, the issue is that we try to survive being single instead of thrive while we're single. And so this video, my hopes is that at the end I give you some tips, some things to think about that will help you not just survive the single season, but thrive in your single season. Because I really feel like a single season is not a wasted season. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sit back, I'm gonna sip some tea, as I quit coffee unless it's decaf, but then I don't want to drink too much decaf, because if I drink way too much decaf, I feel like I'm gonna get, eventually, it's gonna be like a gateway drug. Next thing I know, I'm back drinking regular coffee, and I'm having the same problems I was with caffeine and coffee addiction as I would, anyway, tea. So this video is not anything like specific, other than the fact that I just kind of wanted to talk about being single. I think there's a lot of things that happen while you're single that for a lot of us, I feel like we suck at being single, and I think it's time as young Christians, or maybe you're an older Christian and still single, that we start to decide that, you know what, God has something for us while we're single, and it's not always dependent on a spouse or a significant other for us to live in the call that God has for our lives. If you don't know, I am single. And to be honest with you, I am thriving. There's so many things I'm learning in this season of singleness right now that I wish I would have known and I would have grown in and I would have been confident in doing while I was not single, while I was in other relationships, that would have made me not just a better in those relationships, but better in those seasons of being in relationships. Obviously, the people that I've dated in the past were not the person that I was supposed to marry, but there was things that I probably could have done way better, and I've learned so much from all of those people and all of those situations and all of those things. And I'm here today to share with you guys some things that I have been learning in my single season. Hold on, my mom texts me. So the first thing I feel like is really important, and it's kind of a joke that I always kind of like tell myself, but it's something that I think is really important. Don't go searching for your Boaz so much so that you forget about Yoaz. Bible joke, you know what I'm saying? Funny. But the truth is, really, like, I feel like so often we get caught up in trying to find the person that is supposed to be the end-all be-all for us, the person that is supposed to be the significant other that we dream of, that we put on this pedestal, that we say like, hey, when I get to this point, when I have this person, I can do X, Y, and Z because I'll be with blah, 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 and I'll have blah, blah, blah. And you just start to focus so much on, okay, how do I find this person? I'm so sad I'm single. I'm so sad everybody else is getting married and in relationships and having kids and doing all this stuff and moving in together and buying houses and blah blah blah, and I'm single and I don't have any of that stuff. But the problem with that attitude is that you start to focus too much on the other person that you don't even know who that is. You don't even know if they know you exist, and you forget all about yourself. And the problem with that is that I've always been a firm believer that God has a calling on each of our lives separate from our spouse. I think when we get in a relationship or we get married, there is a call and there is a emphasis on loving and serving and providing and caring for that person. But when you're single, there is a really big emphasis on loving and caring and providing and being there for yourself. Because I feel like if you never become the person that you're supposed to be, and you never become the person that God has designed you to be, walking the things He has called you to walk in, then you're never going to be the person that your future spouse is looking for or deserves or wants. I think it's important that you're not trying to get better just because you're like, hey, I want to get better so that when I meet this person, I'm ready and I'm the person they're looking for, and etc. I think it's important that you say, hey, I want to get better and closer to Jesus and know that when I'm single, it's not a wasted season, but it's a season that I can grow. I can learn a lot about myself. I can focus on being the best version of me. I can focus on saying, hey, Lord, where are the parts in my life that I need to work on? What parts in my life do I need to grow in? What parts of my life do you need to weed things out of? What parts in my life are toxic and to the point where they're not going to be good in a relationship? What parts are toxic that aren't good in my singleness? So I think there's so many things that you can do to focus on how to grow in your single season that don't really have anything to do with who you're dating or who you're gonna date or who you're gonna marry, but it has a lot more to do with you and who you are and who God is calling you to be. The second thing that I think is really important is that you're preparing yourself to be married before you're dating or married. Because I feel like a lot of times we're like, all right, well, I can do this now because I'm single, or I can talk this way because I'm single, or I can look at these pictures on Instagram because I'm single, or I can blah, blah, blah because I'm single. But then one day when I get in a relationship, stuff is going to change, my priorities are going to change. I'll spend way more time with Jesus then. I'll do this then. And I think now is the time when you're single to say, okay, listen, I am gonna prepare myself now for the next season. I feel like one of the biggest quotes and something that I'm always telling myself, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And so if you're not preparing yourself for your future in all sense, not just in your relationships, but since this video is about singleness, I guess relationships only. But if you're not preparing yourself for your future relationships now, you're just preparing yourself to really, really struggle in those relationships. Hey, listen, I watch porn now because I'm single, but then you get in a relationship and you can't stop watching porn and you're destroying your relationships because of those habits. Oh, hey, the way I talk, I don't spend time with Jesus now, but when I'm in a relationship, I'm gonna spend a lot of time with my spouse in time in the Word and devotionals together. But if you're not doing it now, you're definitely not going to do it then. Because something I've learned definitely is that when you get in a relationship, you don't gain time. You have way less time. Because what ends up happening is priorities shift. Right now, you can put yourself at the top of a priority list. You can put time with Jesus at the top of a priority list. But if that time is not at the top of your priority list now, it's definitely not going to be when you find another person that you want to love and serve and pay attention to, and that person becomes the top of your priority list. The priority list should always begin with your relationship with Jesus, because that will trickle down into your relationships with other people. Some of the people I've witnessed do this the best in my life is my sister and my brother-in-law. So my sister, before she was dating my brother-in-law, they're now married, my sister spent a lot of time in the Word. She spent a lot of time in her devotionals, journaling, praying, spending time with the Lord. Obviously she's not perfect at it, but that was a priority for her. Now on the flip side, Jordan, my brother-in-law, did the exact same thing. He spent time in the Word, he spent time praying, he spent time seeking after Jesus. And what ended up happening is in their own walks, in their own time seeking and finding Jesus, they end up crossing paths and meeting each other. But because both, on the top of both of their priority lists was spending time with Him, immediately in their relationship, priority of spending time with Jesus became number one in the relationship as well. And that would not have started unless it started in their singleness. And now they're married and they spend a lot of time doing devotionals together. We invite them to do stuff and they're like,
oh yeah, well after our time at the park doing our devotional together.
It's kind of annoying sometimes. But what they did is in their singleness, they set themselves up for success in the relationship because of how they were in their singleness. And that's exactly what we got to do. I think it's really important that we take care of ourselves and our relationship with Jesus now while we're single, because it only gets harder when you get in a relationship. The third thing I feel like is really, really important to be successful while you're single is that you build relationships now. Friendships, mentors, people in your life now that you know are going to be there for you while you're in a relationship. Because the truth is, there's nothing worse than being lonely in a relationship. And a lot of times, if you don't have friendships now, or you don't put the priority on relationships, or the people you're walking with, or the people that you care about, or the people that you're doing life with that keep you accountable, that love you, that you have fun with, that you can talk to, that are there for you when stuff gets hard, you're gonna find that you may be in a relationship, the thing that you've always dreamed of being in, and you're lonelier than you've ever been in your entire life. And it's heartbreaking. I've been there, to be in a relationship and say, hey, listen, I have all this stuff, I have the relationship, but why am I so lonely? It's because when I was single, I never took the time and I never put the priority on building relationships that would carry me through my dating relationships. And I think it's important that you right now just say, hey, listen, maybe right now what I shouldn't do is put so much emphasis on dating relationships, but I should put more emphasis on friendships, on other relationships, on my family relationships, on my relationships with friends. Maybe I need to make new friends. Maybe I need to go find friends that I know are gonna pull me into the ways of God and not push me into the ways of the world. Maybe God right now is saying he doesn't need you to build a dating relationship, he needs you to build friendships. One of my favorite relationships that the Bible talks about consistently and almost more than marriages is a relationship between King David and his friend Jonathan, which is actually Saul's son, which is kind of a Anyway, the Bible talks about so much how important that relationship was to David and to Jonathan. And I just think, man, kingdom relationships are so vital when you're single, because you're not going to survive or thrive in your single season if you're lonely. And maybe right now you're like, hey, well, I would love to make some friends. I don't have a way to do that. I don't have a way to connect with people. I get anxious when I'm around people. I don't know how. Just go find a young adults or a youth group or a church and go get plugged in. Take a step of faith and say, hey, maybe I'm single in this season right now because I need some other relationships that will build up around me, that will encourage me, that I know when stuff goes south in my relationship or stuff gets hard in my relationship, I can pick up the phone, I can drive to their house, and I can say, yo, I need some support, I need some advice, I need some love, I need some tough love. And those people are going to carry you and not only make you successful in your singleness, but they're going to make you successful in your relationships. I wanted to make this video quick. So last thing that I think is huge in terms of being successful and single is that you change your perspective on your singleness. Because it's really, really easy to think that singleness is a curse and that singleness is something that is wrong with you and that you're not doing something good enough. Me and my friend were just joking the other day. We were saying like, yo, so many of our friends are in relationships, so many people we know have relationships, and we're both single dudes. We're like, what are we doing wrong? But it was a joke, but what it ends up happening is in a lot of times that you can actually start to believe that there's something wrong with you because you aren't in a relationship. And so I just want to encourage you today in this video to switch your perspective and say, hey, right now I'm single. It's not because there's anything wrong with me, but it might be because there are things that I need to work on. There's things that I need to grow in, and maybe take a step back and say, maybe the emphasis shouldn't be on finding the person so much as it should be becoming the person that person dreams of dating. And that takes a little bit of humility, a little bit of self-reflection, a time in the Word, and understanding, okay, there's parts and aspects of my life that need to improve, that need to get better, that need to grow so I can get closer to Jesus, so I can become closer walking in the will He has for my life. And a bad perspective of believing that I'm unworthy to be loved, that there's something wrong with me, that I'll never find the person, that that I need to find a person to be fully who God has called me to be. Those are all lies of the enemy. And I just want to tell you and encourage you, change the perspective and focus on things. Philippians 4 tells us, or is it Ephesians? It is Philippians. It tells us to focus on things that are honorable and true and right and pure, and those things I think is what you need to lay your perspective, the foundation of your perspective on, and say, okay, in my singleness, I'm gonna focus on all those aspects so that one, I grow, two, I protect my mind and my thoughts so that I'm not attacking myself for not being in a relationship, and three, I become not just surviving in singleness, but thriving in singleness. I love you guys. I'm in the same season as y'all. I'm single and honestly very happy about it because there's stuff that I needed to grow in, that I've learned. There's relationships that I have built that I would have never built in a relationship. There's stuff that is happening in my life that I would have never done if I wasn't single. And so right now I feel like I'm so excited to be in this single season because I made the decision a while back when I became single that, all right, I'm not just gonna survive and be a bottom feeder until I find a person to be in a relationship with again. But I'm gonna thrive. I'm gonna become the person that God has called me to be. I'm gonna walk closer in His will. I'm gonna do all the stuff that He's asked me to do, but I never did. And when I do find that person, I'm gonna be so much further down the road, so much better as an individual, and I'm going to be able to have said, in my single season, I thrived, I grew closer to Jesus, I built relationships that last through my dating and married relationship. And I'm gonna be able to say, hey, what I learned now, this season of singleness was not a waste wasted season. It was a waiting season, but it was not a wasted season. I just wanted to kind of give you guys those things to think about. Being single can be hard in a world that glorifies being in a relationship. Being single can be harder the older you get when people say, oh, why aren't you married? Why aren't you dating? But the reality is, you don't need anybody else to do and be the person God has called you to be. You just need to get close to Jesus, and you just need to know that you can thrive in your singleness. Some things I did want to tell you guys though before I end this video. One big exciting thing, I just launched my website, cadenfabrizio.com. You can go there, you can type it in, and you can check out a bunch of stuff about me. You can book me to speak at your church, your events, your conference. You can find all my social channels. You can find the podcast. So go check that out right now. It just launched a few days ago, cadenfabrizio.com, and join my email list so that you never miss when a video comes out, a podcast comes out, when I'm speaking somewhere, or when an exciting project that will be out soon. Hint, hint, the tattoo. And so join the email list so that you are updated on all those things. And if you can, please like this video and subscribe. A like goes a very, very, very long way for myself and other creators like myself. So if you could like the video, that would mean a ton to me. And share it with somebody that maybe needs to thrive in their singleness and maybe needs some tips to know how to be successful while you're single. All right, I love you guys, and I'll see y'all in the next one.